Did you ever notice how the moment you finally care about someone, something subtle but devastating shifts in the way they look at you, like they've already decided you're predictable, already decided you're safe, already decided you're finished? And here's the uncomfortable question no one wants to ask out loud. What if the problem was never what you said, how you look, or how hard you tried? What if the problem is that the second you want her, you stop being you? That thought should sting a little, because if it scares you, it's probably touching something real, and in the next few minutes you're going to recognize patterns in yourself you can't unsee. Think about the last time you waited for a reply, phone glowing in your hand, heart doing that quiet, embarrassing math. How long is too long before I look desperate? How short is too short before I look careless? That mental tug-of-war isn't about texting at all, it's about fear. The fear that if you don't manage this moment perfectly, you'll disappear from her mind. And that fear doesn't stay hidden. It leaks into your tone, your timing, your posture, your energy. People like to believe attraction is logical, but it's not, it's atmospheric. She doesn't analyze you, she feels you. And when what she feels is tension that's trying to hide itself, curiosity begins to collapse. But here's what most men miss. The collapse doesn't happen all at once, it happens quietly, decision by decision, moment by moment. There's a psychological principle that rarely gets explained in human terms. We value what makes us orient ourselves. When something doesn't require adjustment, effort, or awareness, the brain stops allocating energy to it. This isn't cruelty, it's efficiency. Your mind does it every day. You stop noticing the hum of the refrigerator, the weight of your clothes, the sound of traffic. Until something changes. Now imagine a man whose attention is always on, always available, always validating. At first it feels flattering. Then it feels expected. And expectation is where attraction goes to sleep. But here's the uncomfortable loop that forms. The more you feel her pulling away, the more you try to compensate, and the more you compensate, the less there is left for her to orient toward. Notice how quietly that trap closes. Let me tell you a story that doesn't sound dramatic at first. A man meets a woman at a casual gathering. Nothing cinematic. No sparks flying. Just a conversation that flows easily. He listens, he responds, he's present. But there's one thing he doesn't do. He doesn't rush to reward every sentence with approval. He doesn't mirror her opinions like a reflection desperate to be liked. He stays curious without chasing resolution. And something strange happens inside her mind. She doesn't feel dismissed. She doesn't feel ignored. She feels slightly unplaced. Not rejected, just not settled. And that unsettled feeling doesn't create anxiety, it creates attention. Her mind keeps circling back, trying to locate where she stands. The twist is, he isn't playing a role. He's simply not offering himself prematurely. And that difference is everything. Here's where most advice collapses into nonsense. People confuse restraint with coldness, and mystery with manipulation. But the psychology doesn't reward cruelty, it rewards coherence. When your actions align with the truth that your time, energy, and attention actually matter to you, something stabilizes inside you. You stop performing. And when performance drops, presence increases. That presence is felt immediately. It's why someone who speaks slowly can command a room without raising their voice. It's why someone who doesn't rush decisions seems grounded rather than indecisive. But here's the catch most people don't want to hear: you cannot fake this for long. If your life is empty, silence will expose it. And that realization is where discomfort turns into growth. There's a bitter emotional peak hiding here, and it deserves to be said plainly. If your life feels small, you will try to use attraction to make it feel bigger, and people can sense when they're being used as oxygen. That's not a moral judgment, it's a psychological one. When another human feels like the center of your emotional survival, they feel pressure instead of desire. And pressure suffocates curiosity. This is why the most magnetic people you've ever met weren't trying to be impressive, they were already engaged with something meaningful before you arrived. You didn't feel needed, you felt invited. That difference is subtle, and once you feel it, you can never confuse the two again. Now let's talk about disagreement, because this is where fear really shows itself. Many men believe that attraction is maintained by harmony, shared tastes, shared opinions, shared enthusiasm. But harmony without contrast is static. It creates comfort, not polarity. When you respectfully disagree, when you hold a perspective that isn't adjusted for approval, something powerful happens. You introduce depth. You introduce edges. And edges are what the mind explores. This doesn't mean being contrarian. It means being anchored. And when you're anchored, you don't fear losing approval, because approval was never the goal. Curiosity was. Watch what happens when you stop trying to be chosen and start observing whether you are choosing. That shift alone rewires the entire interaction. Texting, timing, plans, all of these are just symptoms of a deeper signal. The signal is whether your life continues moving when no one is watching. When you respond from a pause instead of a reflex, when you schedule from reality instead of hope, when you allow silence without narrating it, you communicate self-trust. And self-trust is contagious. It creates a question in the other person's mind. What is he grounded in? What world is he returning to when this conversation ends? That question is the engine of attraction, and it only runs when you stop trying to answer it for her. Here's the paradox that shocks people when they finally feel it working. The moment you stop needing validation, you become capable of genuine warmth. Not transactional warmth. Not strategic charm. Real warmth, the kind that doesn't ask for anything back. And that's when people lean in, not because they're being pulled, but because they're free to approach. You haven't withdrawn. You've stabilized. You haven't become distant. You've become complete. And completeness is rare enough that it always draws attention, even when you're not asking for it. So when women begin to treat you differently, it won't feel like a trick worked. It will feel quieter than that. More unsettling. More honest. Conversations will slow down. Interest will deepen instead of spike. Some people will drift away, and that's not failure, that's filtration. Others will step closer, not because you chase them, but because something about you stopped chasing anything at all. And if that idea makes you uncomfortable, good. Discomfort is the sound of an old pattern breaking. The real question isn't whether this works. The real question is whether you're ready to let go of the version of yourself that thought being chosen was the same thing as being valued.